Meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the governing body of the Borough of Bloomingdale, Tuesday, September 20th, 2016. I'd ask if everyone would please rise to salute our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Downey.
Here.
Councilman Sondermeyer is away on business. Costa.
Here.
Della Ripa.
Here.
D'Amato.
Here.
Hudson.
Present.
Yazdi.
He should be, work traffic probably. Also with us, our municipal clerk, Jay McCarthy, and Borough Attorney Fred Semra. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. This is an official meeting of the governing body of the Borough of Bloomingdale on November 28, 2015, and amended March 1, 2016. The date, time, place of this meeting was faxed and mailed to all local news media and posted here at Borough Hall. There's no early executive session. We do have two non-agenda items, so the public's aware. The first is a resolution supporting an Eagle Scout that I will be attending on October 1st. And the second is approving a boot drive for the fire department Saturday, October 22nd. Those two items are non-agenda. Before we do public comment, I'm going to go right to our presentations. Tonight we have a presentation by the Bloomingdale Economic Development Commission, and I welcome the three of you. Is that who we have with us this evening? I welcome you here this evening. I'd ask you to come up to the microphone and have a seat in the chairs. For those who don't know, we have Suzanne Osborne,
Hi.
John Graziano, and Paul Lamont, who have been very, very active, very committed members of our Economic Development Committee. And tonight, particularly, they're going to talk about the survey results. As you recall, a number of months ago, we had the survey town-wide to receive input from our residents, and that is what we're going to talk about this evening. Before we begin, I really do want to thank the members. They meet consistently, and they have great ideas, and it's only going to get better. And we are looking for more members, right? We would welcome anyone from the borough who's willing to commit to be part of this team. There's some things I want to talk about as you present tonight. The results that I want to talk about, the things that the governing body is going to look to help supplement your efforts as well. So if you guys can please come on up and join us. The council members were all copied some time ago, then again recently, on the survey results, and then the summary last week, September 14th, from the EDC. So with that said, I will turn it over to whomever is going to lead on our discussion. So thank you again.
Thank you. We're going to take turns and
Great.
give you some different pieces of it. Well, yeah, we kind of regrouped as an economic development committee probably last year in January, and formulated some members. Some stuck, some didn't. And then we started thinking, how can we educate ourselves a little further, and how can we start trying to find what's the first steps we should do. So we had Deborah Hoffman come in from the county. She's in the economic development, I don't know if it's called that, but for the county.
Yeah. Yep.
She kind of told us about things that they can do, educated us somewhat. We get her emails. There's some interesting seminars they have. There's also, we had Pumpkin Lakes come in and tell us about their bid, how they do it. Essentially, there's like a little tax that gets charged to or a fee to every business. They use that money to create a slush fund, which they use then to do all kinds of incentives and coupons and programs. It was very interesting.
And
They've done a good job.
mini grants for facade improvements and things. Yeah.
They've done some neat things there, but of course, it's like kind of raising a tax, and they also have a bigger base to work out of
Commercial
than we
base,
do.
right. Yeah.
So it was interesting to see some of that. And we started reading what some other towns had done. We thought the first thing, and we weren't sure, because there's so many opinions you have, and so said, well, how do we gather them all? So we said, let's start off by doing a survey. And we did it through, I think, SurveyMonkey, was it, or one of those? Poll Daddy. On the internet. And we debated different ways to do it. So we chose to do it that way. And we were excited that about 750 people responded, which is about 10% of the town from a population, including children, I guess.
Right.
And from a household perspective, it's fantastic. Sure. Most polling, you don't expect to get more than 1 or 2%. So we were persistent. We had it out for 3 months. I think you did a couple of robocalls for us, so we had some signs out. So don't know if the town's ever done, I'm gonna call this exhaustive of a survey. We've learned a little bit in the survey process. Maybe we do it a little different next time, ask some different questions. Especially when you ask open-ended questions and you have 750 people responding, you get like 120 different answers. So we try to consolidate them, and we had some multiple choice questions, which really helped. You can narrow them down much quicker. So we had a 10-question survey. 2 of them were multiple choice. The rest were a written answer that came back. Like I said, it went a 3-month period. We were very happy with the number of responses we got. And we'll let Suzanne summarize what they were.
Okay. So as Paul said, there were 10 questions. The first question was a multiple choice type question, a grid type question, and it asked the residents to rate town attributes either from a big disadvantage to a big advantage. And there were 5 different categories that they could choose: big disadvantage, neutral, advantage, or big disadvantage, or big advantage. And what it came down to be was that the disadvantages were mostly the availability of downtown parking, the access to arts, cultural centers, and entertainment, property taxes, and affordability. The advantages were road and highway access, low crime rate, good air quality, access to parks, and access to banks and professional services. And you can see that in question 1 in the grid there. Question 2 was one of the open-ended questions, and the reason that we wrote the open-ended questions was we really didn't want the residents to feel boxed in, like they had to pick A, B, or C. You know, we really wanted them to express what they were feeling, and in hindsight, it was very hard for us to summarize all the answers that we got, because, you know, there, as Paul said, there were many, many, many different answers. So question number 2, what do you feel it's important for Bloomingdale to maintain? And there were 629 total responses, because not every single person answered every single answer. They skipped some of them. But we had a huge amount for each one. The top 3 responses in order of percentage of answers was, the largest one was small town feel and sense of community, and then the second was affordability, and then the third, improve the looks of Main Street. And what the residents were saying is that some of the properties seemed to be run down, so they would like to maintain the looks of the buildings and the curb appeal of downtown, and that was a recurring theme. What would you change about Bloomingdale? The top 3 responses were lower the taxes, improve Main Street, and then tied for 3rd place was improve the public schools and not to expand the quarrying on Federal Hill. People said that they would like better parking, more pedestrian-friendly, improve the appearances of downtown, that there's traffic and it's hard to walk around, things of that nature. The 4th question it was another grid. It asked residents to rate their interest level in different potential improvements to Main Street. And not surprisingly, most people, most potential improvements were well received. Residents were very interested in improved facades of existing buildings, but they weren't interested really in having a uniform zoning to make them all look the same. Question number 5, what's missing from Bloomingdale? The top 3 were businesses, charm, and lower taxes. The residents seemed to convey that attractive businesses would increase the desirability of downtown and be able to bring more businesses in. Basically an upcycle type of a situation. Question 6, should downtown have an architectural theme? If yes, what themes would you recommend? The answers to this question mirror what we saw in question 4, where people don't want a specific theme, they just want it cleaned and maintained. If a theme was mentioned, the largest theme was a small town theme. And they embraced a lot of variations on that. And descriptions that people gave were like quaint and historical. Many residents pointed to our logo, an American small town. And specifically, residents mentioned towns like Ridgewood as desirable. And in our town, several residents pointed to the example of Bob's Barber Shop as a desirable look, as well as the New River of Beer. And they did voice a dislike for cookie cutter and an extreme dislike of flashing LED lights in store windows. Question 7. What types of festivals and events would you like to see in our town? There was only 497 responses on that, not as many as on the other questions, and the majority of respondents, 30%, said none are not applicable. The remaining 70% of people who answered the question, they had a lot of diverse answers, and they run the range of, the widely appealing holiday theme events and street fairs to more specialized, such as like nature-inspired events. Number 8, what types of businesses would you like to see more of in Bloomingdale? The top 3 responses were retail stores, restaurants, and food. And the responses focused on retail stores, shopping, eating. Opportunities requested were more mom and pop type shops, 5 and 10s, craft stores, clothing boutiques, shoes, books. Eatery requests were for a cafe with outdoor seating, tavern, diner, burgers, bakery, market, and at least one high-end restaurant. Number 9, what are the 3 main non-eatery businesses that you use in Bloomingdale? The top 3 responses were pharmacies, gas stations and banks, and post office and convenience stores. Number 10 was the open narrative for additional comments, and that was, there were 398 total responses, and the majority, there were the top 3 categories: improve Main Street, lower taxes, and not to expand quarrying on Federal Hill. But they were very low percentages. Most of the comments were across the board. But we would like to note that 4% of the respondents to this question expressed their love of Bloomingdale.
Yes.
Right, I like pointing out that fact myself. So I'll walk you through some of our suggestions we have after going through some of these resident surveys. So the vast amount of residents say that we should focus on Main Street. Seems pretty clear in their responses. So we looked a little bit more specifically. What exactly about Main Street do they suggest we improve, or what are their concerns about Main Street currently? So we saw that there were many responses around pedestrian safety. So with that, we suggest that the borough think about adding more crosswalks and making them more visible. So I know we have those median signs that, tell you to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalks. So we suggest a couple things with those in particular. Perhaps we make a little bit of upgrade to them to make them a little more appealing, to make them a little bit more noticeable to drivers. This will do a couple things. First, it'll actually cause people to see them and say, hey, wait, I got to yield to people. Also,
Rather than hit them. like
yes, yeah, that would be nice to deter. And also, it'll help to deter speeding as well as add to the beautification of downtown. Also along those lines, we suggest that the borough think about increasing our police presence downtown, really to enforce the yield to pedestrian laws, and then really just their presence will also help to discourage any kind of speeding from drivers. And then finally, from the pedestrian standpoint, where possible, it'd be a good idea to add any kind of landscaping we can, whether that's in the median of the road or somewhere in the surrounding area. I know it's difficult to do because there's a lot of narrow passages along Main Street and even on Hamburg Turnpike, but it goes a long way to, again, deterring speeding, but also adding to the beautification of downtown. Next, we suggest that the borough really become more proactive in reaching out to potential business owners as well as to developers. Really marketing our town as well as reaching out to them. And one of the first steps I think that we can make, and a really easy one, is on our borough website to include a link or a very noticeable page that provides some information on our town, demographic information, as well as some useful things that people might not know about Bloomingdale. So other than the typical how many people live here and what the median income is, should also add that we have an increase in our consumer base through the development of Avalon Bay or the rezoning that's been done on Main Street and on Union Ave. And even highlighting some of the vacant properties or the commercial buildings that are for sale right there on the website. Having this information more readily available shows that it keeps us a little bit more in the game. People will consider us a little bit more, and it makes the research a little bit easier for these people. And then finally, when it comes to the theme of downtown, the residents were pretty clear that they don't want a cookie-cutter mandate. They don't want to see everything exactly the same. However, they do note that they want to see things to be improved, and they're not really super happy about the hodgepodge of different store architects that you see down there over the past several decades. So in line with the suggestions they have on the small town theme, we think it would be a good idea for the borough, maybe in connection with the planning board, to develop more of an architectural review board or a review that kind of captures those abstract thoughts of a small town and considers those in any kinds of improvements that are going to be done or any type of new development that would be done, specifically on Main Street. So we were overall pretty encouraged with the response rate. We thought it was pretty successful. Residents were really passionate, and we saw that in the turnout and the variety of responses. They're really thinking about our town, and they care about it. And I hope that that gets highlighted. So we encourage you to look at some of the summaries that maybe we didn't get to talk to, but get into a little bit more detail and open it up if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, it's great results. Again, first, thank you. And, just some of the points you just raised, I agree wholeheartedly on the pedestrian safety. The crosswalk signs were a recent addition over the past couple of years, and there's not a lot of options as far as to make them prettier, or nicer. But it amazes me how those get hit by cars. I mean, I'm replacing them every couple months because they themselves get hit. It's kind of terrifying. But I have had many conversations with the traffic bureau, which will be increasing their presence there. Part of it on that front is, retirements and things. We were down to having no traffic bureau for a long period of time with injury and retirement. So that's back to being almost, full force was one. We're hoping in 2017 there'll be two in the traffic bureau. So we'll see that increased presence. So we're well aware of that and agree 100% with the increased police presence. Yes.
Along those lines, did you have any suggestions for a better crosswalk, for better crosswalks? I mean, in discussions with other towns and other organizations, was there suggestions?
The history of, I know we had a couple iterations when we put that, I guess we had painted brick pavers first.
We
then
had stamped brick, which faded over time. The county would not permit real pavers. It's a county road, remember. They've tried, and they were declined from the county to do that because of snow plowing, although I see them all over the place. Although I haven't revisited that.
This is a new material they allow and
It
not
could
another
be,
material.
it could be. But again, it's county road, so anything we do needs county permission. Even the parking spots that we painted last year needed county approval. So that in itself took, a number of months to get them to agree. We had to have an engineer design it and show where every spot was going, et cetera, because it's county road. So the same would apply to, crosswalks and, a great identifiable crosswalk is a paver crosswalk. It was also a funding issue, too.
We talked a lot about the fact that, I think you all know that our Main Street is a thoroughfare from West Milford.
Sure.
Right, so it's literally, it's a highway for
Right.
50% of people that are coming down it, but what do you do to slow traffic down in the middle? By Tings there, even though it's a nice place to pass around people when they're backing up,
Right.
but if there's a little bit of, can any median go on that road with a plant in it or two?
There-
Or is that county road issue again?
That's a county road issue. There, and Jane can attest to this if you recall. A number of years, I may have been on the council when we had tried to get the county to approve, I don't want to call it like an island between
Yeah.
the head-on parking spots and Main Street.
Right.
So that when people backed out, they'd have to back, have an island behind them and then proceed by Lorangs or whichever way. And the county denied it. They were okay with backing into traffic, but again, these are 10, 12 years ago
Could Deborah
issues
Hoffman
that
help us?
that could be revisited. Excuse me?
Could Deborah Hoffman help us with that?
Again, absolutely, but I'm just saying the town made the attempt, well aware of the situation. But that and the pavers I mentioned are well over 10 years ago. So there are things that we can and will revisit. 'Cause
The original
I
lights,
agree with
I
you.
don't know if the lights were put in on the grants or how they were put in. We kind of stopped halfway down. Do we want to, continue lights, planters, islands, and cops on bicycles? So we kind of want to create that whole, gulf from the bridge to the municipal building, kind of make it a connected somehow, from our aesthetic.
Yeah, again,
I know we've tried some of this over the years.
we agree. The part that's been done in 2002, 3-ish of Main Street pavers and lanterns was partially, I want to say I'm rounding numbers, it was $500,000. Half of it was a DOT grant. That pot of money's dried up as far as that kind of funding, and the town funded the rest. It is absolutely a wish of the council to go right to the Riverdale Bridge, but again, like anything else, it's a funding mechanism. Sadly, we've had to fix sewer lines and water lines and pave failed roads rather than do that kind of improvement, although it's paramount and it is something we would absolutely want to see. There was a time in the late 90s and early 2000s where there was a lot more money out there for those kind of streetscape items, and there really isn't that kind of pot of money. I mean, in your history in municipal government, Fred, you could attest to that too, right, as far as what used to be available. And the town did have some funding. Matter of fact, the town had funding to continue it, but that was canceled and returned. Then the town never proceeded with continuing it down to the Riverdale Bridge. Though it needs to be done. It's half done. Yeah, it's
I
bothersome.
didn't do my research, but with that Rose Fund, I'm not familiar with what's in there. Isn't some of that dedicated to,
Well, it's recreation and open space, so
would that, I guess not open.
I don't know if you could justify recreation or open space on that. But we keep saying Rose Fund that's been tapped hard, so there's not even a lot left there, to continue it, just saying Rose Fund will pay for it.
The other thing I think we learned is that Pumpkin Lakes, I think, told us too, they have a architectural review board.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we hope to maybe present as well to the planning board and just tell them the same thing we just told you. And, because what we came out of it is instead of saying, look, we want to have all 1776 clapboard,
Right. Like Bob's
can't say that, right? But what you can say is if the architectural review board is volunteers, again, and it's going to shift over time with the demographics of the town, so there's no hard rule, but there's a committee, that has a goal to hit some primary principles like small town, so-and-so, opposed to saying black and white, no Mexican themes, only early American themes or whatever,
Right. Well, again, everyone on this dais agrees with you. I think the history of the borough, we have a master plan. We have a master plan that calls for the things you're talking about. The problem is in the history of the borough, before anyone in this room served in any sort of official capacity, wasn't always followed, and variances were issued and approvals were given that may not, in hindsight, been done. Again, it's hard to undo that. Sideways strip malls, terracotta roofs, things that don't go with the theme that we're all desiring. So the Architectural Review Board has been discussed over the years. It's just never been formed. I do, though, believe, if you think about the history, we haven't had an application for Main Street development in probably in 25 years, right, for anything other than the River of Beers. And that look went through our planning board and I think got close to what we wanted to be. I know there was, the planning board even wanted stonework in the front, and that just was kind of a settlement to make it some cost a little better for the owner. But at the end of the day, it was the planning board, the current planning board today is not, and I shouldn't say this on the record, but 20 years ago I nicknamed our Board of Adjustments Variances Are Us, because they were just giving variances away and it wasn't always as consistent as it should have been. I'm talking a long time ago. That doesn't exist anymore. Our planning board and zoning board is one, and they're a great board, which I'm hoping you do present to as well, to get their feedback and you give yours theirs. I believe they get it, as far as they wouldn't allow things that don't really, meld well with what we want to see in town. And I think River Beer is probably the great example of that, because it's probably the only thing that's really been in front of the planning board as far as something new. Now, as far as if it's a change of use, you have to remember, if it's a change of use, then it goes to the planning board. So if someone just wants to take a retail store and it's a permitted use, like a nail salon to a vape shop, okay, they don't have to go to the planning board. It's just our zoning officer, construction officer, issuing permits for any work that has to be done. So we really haven't had anything in front of the planning board. Like the flashing neon lights issue. There's no ordinances to prohibit those neon lights, but there are laws to prohibit them from flashing. So they no longer flash. 2 weeks ago they were flashing again, but if you notice, they're no longer flashing again, because it was immediately brought to my attention, which I witnessed myself, and the owner was told to stop the flashing. That we can control. The lights themselves, we can't. I had, matter of fact, recently emailed our ordinance review board, because we have an ordinance review board that I'm always sending stuff to. Hey, let's look at this, let's look at this. And one of the things, and not to always put Mr. Graff on the spot, he's on that board, was, hey, we need to look at our sign and light ordinance and what, what could we do? And at the end of the day, it's really not bad. I mean, it's okay, it's just, it's at the end of the day, the board, when something's in front of them new, making sure it's what we want to see, and I'm confident this new board will. There's an application in front of the planning board now for a pretty good-sized development on Hamburg Turnpike, across from Turnpike Liquors, 2 doors down from Quick Check, towards Uptown. And it's a pretty substantial office building with housing upstairs. So I haven't seen the design yet, but I'm sure at the end of the day, it's going to be something we're all going to be happy with. So I think a lot of it's the history that created a lot of our problems, that I don't necessarily feel would occur anymore if we saw new applications. That's the bigger part of this. Now, what the governing body has done, this was a suggestion of Councilman Yazdi, which the planning board has approved, and we're waiting. We should have the resolution for our next meeting. We are going to adopt an ordinance that will allow us to declare the entire borough in need of I always get it wrong, rehabilitation, not development. Anything, if a certain percentage is over 1955, you can declare a need of rehabilitation. And it allows us to give an incentive. When we were hoping we could do greater, but we can allow a business owner, a homeowner, to do a $25,000 capital improvement to their home and waive that tax increase for 5 years. Just an incentive. It'll pay for, the future taxes for a couple of years. It's, figure $4.100 rate. So it's $1,000 a year for 5 years. So, I mean, it'll save someone $5,000. But if someone's on the fence about doing, awnings or shutters or something, minor, but afraid of the increased value, this could be a great incentive. So that's one thing we are doing. And we'll market that hard to make sure everyone, particularly Main Street, is aware of it. And on the backside, it's going to generate more permit fees too. So there's a positive from a revenue side as a result of it too. But the goal is we were hoping we can waive $100,000 worth of repairs to really see a big investment. And Fred did all the homework for us, and that's the max you can do. But it's a start, okay? What I'm going to do is email you the commission tomorrow. We did in 2006, I wasn't on the governing body at the time, the county offered the services of Nielsen Associates to do the Bloomingdale Vision Plan. I don't know if you've ever seen this. In this plan is exactly what we're talking about. Courtyards, calming. It's incredibly beautiful what this says our downtown should be. And again, it comes down to finding the developers to be willing to do that, and/or the private and the public investment, which is tough for Bloomingdale right now to make that public investment. So Ray and I recently met with our engineer, who has more contacts than we do with such developers. So sometime in the early to middle part of October, Ray and I will be meeting with 1 or 2 large-sized developers to just sit down casually, show them the vision plan, and say, is there interest? To do something in Bloomingdale, because that's I think the only way we're really going to make a difference. So for those business owners who don't want to sell or don't want to, make a change, we're doing little incentives like the tax incentive to do. But we're hoping that we can get some serious developers to come in and do some real big rehabilitation projects downtown. And obviously the EDC, you'll be all part of this. This is just literally timing as well with you being here tonight. I will email you the vision plan, and you will be pleasantly surprised. It's just that it sat on the shelf for the last 10 years.
I remember when they were doing that.
Yeah,
back when it was on-
and really nothing, ever became of it. Because it comes down to the money and/or a developer. Again, there's the Riverwalk idea that was, a study was done a few years ago. All great ideas. How are you paying for it is really the issue. So, all great ideas. I promise you I'll work on the safety and the police part. I will reach out again to the county because
Hey, John.
we recently eliminated those pavers because they were looking kind of cruddy. They were worn and half, so we just got rid of them, just went back to the straight lines. So, yes.
John, I'd like just to ask a question. With regards to the pedestrian safety issue you're looking at, I believe that the speed limit down there, I could get in trouble for this statement, is 30 miles an hour?
Whatever it is, is what it's going to be, because
We can't change that to 20. It seems like an area
No,
from
it's
the
all-
bridge to Kings Corner should be 25.
it's all based on counties, it's a county road, and we've,
Just went through all that.
the county has done studies, and based on traffic flow, and based on,
Just seems so-
trying to remember the other variables involved. Well, we fixed signage, because signage was wrong, and again, I think it's 30,
Oh,
25 and then 30 again.
25,
Bill,
and
Bill's saying it's 25 now.
it's 25, but then it turns into 30 after
30.
Kings Corner.
This corner's on up.
30 after LaSalle's.
After LaSalle's Corner up to, Hamburg. So Main Street's 25.
All right, I always do
The issue is people actually doing that.
Right.
And we do have a bicycle patrol, but we don't see a lot of it. Again, all these things are in the works that we're talking about because, we've had 5 retirements in 2 years, new guys on. I think 2017 is going to be the first year in a while where we're full-blown, because that's our chief's desire, is to have bicycle officer on Main Street regularly. They do undercover stings for crosswalks, that we have, one of our guys undercover crossing the road and people don't stop, get a ticket. So they do that pretty consistently, but, people just don't stop, just like they shouldn't litter, and they do incredibly amount. That's one of my big pet peeves. So, but I'm excited about the vision study. I'm excited about the developers we're going to be meeting, and I will make you guys all part of this whole. You need to be part of this. So that's going to be exciting. And as far as I love the idea of the website. And Rich, not to put more on you, but Rich is our website guy. To put exactly that information, the demographics, the commercial base being increased.
Like they observe, we don't want just dry stats like how many people live here. and stuff
Right.
like that. We need to, I'm sorry.
Well, when there's
We need to
ordinances-
we need to find something that actually encourages, Bloomingdale investment.
I think
When
we
the-
need to go through the website page and clean it up a little bit, so it's eye-appealing when somebody looks.
Right, I mean, there's
So
some
somebody-
other stuff
You
too.
want somebody, a developer that's gonna go through a bunch of websites, to have to really look.
Well, we'll do research on it, but yeah. But the
Maybe you
point
do some
is,
Google keywords for Google searches too, if it doesn't cost too much, or
Right.
it's some low-key, developing Bloomingdale, make something pop up.
I like
or-
the idea of like posting things like Avalon Bay, increasing your consumer base, things like this ordinance we're gonna do for tax incentives should be on
Right.
there. Things like available buildings for sale and zoning. I mean, a lot of it's there, it's like, if
Right,
someone,
yeah,
if
I
someone
mean,
wants to
obviously, if
invest,
we
they wanna
pass
know
an
what our
ordinance,
zoning
and
is.
it's in the ordinance section,
They
but no
can
one wants
find
to
our
look
zoning.
through all of our ordinances
right.
to see what we
Make it
did.
easy for them to want to
Right.
Then
find
that should be a
everything.
zoning map, which is color-coded, they could see
Right,
what
exactly.
zonings are and all that.
Any real estate agents within the group?
Yes.
Yes, it's her birthday today, so
Oh.
she's not
Right,
here.
she's not here.
Yeah, Lisa.
Elise.
They put out those books, and I'd love to have fillers in there. So that's another area, I love the marketing idea.
Yeah, now Lisa's been a great asset on this commission, she's real big. What is she, Caldwell Banker or
Yeah.
Biker, Caldwell Banker?
One other thing we didn't put as a recommendation, but we mentioned, at the same time, we want to neaten everything up or further, but a lot of these businesses seem, some of them are struggling, right?
Yes.
So at the same time, we have the issue where there's probably a lot of laws on the books that we're not enforcing, but we probably should especially enforce in downtown. At the same time, like, we found, I guess there's one I didn't know, maybe the sign committee just knows this, that almost 80% of the business, I don't know about 80, but a large percent of the business are in violation of, you can't even have a sign bigger than this by this in your window.
Coverage,
And
right.
everyone's got like their entire windows
It's a percentage of
Pasted.
coverage, right.
pasted, right? And I think the signs can be bigger than a certain size or
It's
percentage, right?
30%.
I think
of
it's
the window.
coverage on the window, and we had talked about this, and it was kind of decided, let's just hang
Yeah.
low
I mean,
now,
For them,
because
they
the-
feel, I need to make business, right? So I need to put my signs out. At the same time, it looks like somebody's plastered, homemade
agree.
signs on all the windows.
but at the time, we kind of really didn't run with that, because for that reason of not wanting to hurt the business
Right.
at the same time.
Yeah.
But my position, if someone's gonna stop at that store for, tail ham, egg, and cheese sandwich, the sign on the window's not what's making them stop, It could be looking like Bob the Barber, and I'd be more likely to stop.
Yeah.
So,
But if there is ordinance enforcement, especially on Main Street, if there's anything falling apart on the structure, might be a reason to tell them to fix it and put perhaps a better style shingle on while they're in the process or something kind of.
yeah.
But of course, the first reaction is going to be, no, I don't got the money for that, or so forth, but to especially enforce the codes where we can with prudence on Main Street.
One of the things that I had found was the temporary signs. The temporary signs are not, the cardboard signs. There's a lot of businesses.
Right, the
that have-
A-frame wind-blowing ones
Yeah,
and
and
those kind
they aren't even allowed to be installed. So, that's something that we could enforce, and that's not going to really hurt anyone's business, because it's not gonna cost them money to get rid of a temporary cardboard sign.
In a conversation you had with Ponton Lakes to put the bid into process, I'm sure it wasn't sweet and easy when they started it. How did they get the business owners to buy in the beginning? Because that'll be a struggle.
I think it comes down from the council as a ordinance.
Right.
You say all businesses shall pay X percent. Now, they happen to have, was it DuPont or something really big in their
Right,
town?
right.
That ends up funding like a third of that.
thing.
But they collect like 300,000 additional from the businesses, some big number, maybe it's 100,000. They've got 30,000 or 40,000 of payroll on the bid itself.
Right, to run the bid.
To run a coupon program, to find people to do the, like, I think you can get up to $5,000 back if you fix your facade.
Right.
You get a $5,000 thing, so you can make incentive programs. So they kind of impose the percentage on the businesses.
Whether they're on Main Street or not.
Anywhere, right?
Anywhere,
You could be way up on the end of top of Glenwild.
The main,
And you gather the revenue, you hire somebody to run the program, and they think of all creative things. You hire a consultant for another 30,000, and the 30,000 for the guy who runs it. Next thing you have 60 of your 300 spent in salaries to be creative.
they have planners and paid professional people doing this
They're
for them.
consultants, paid
They have,
consultants.
their planner's the same planner for, I think, Morristown, wasn't it? The Morristown, who got the whole green back booming again. The biggest
Well,
difference is
a lot
the
of it
base-
got started just from one person.
Yeah, oh, absolutely,
Who
yes.
really got the ball rolling. He was actually a retiree, he was a longtime resident in the town, and he really pushed for it. So when it came to initially starting the bid, one of the things that happened was they did get a lot of pushback from the businesses, but over time, they started to see the value behind it. So it's really gone a long way from, just 5 whatever years ago, when this guy kind of had an idea and really pushed it.
And two things, it's the building owner, not the business owner. So most
Oh, yeah.
situations, they're tenants, so it's the building owner.
Right.
Number one. Number two, the biggest difference is, I believe he said they have 600 businesses in town that they tax compared to our 50, 60. So,
And a third was DuPont or something, right?
right, so, and let's say their bid is $200 tax. It's not a lot of money, right? It was a couple
I think it
hundred
was about
bucks.
1,000 a business or something.
That much? But it brings in, I don't think it was that much.
Maybe 500 to get to 300,000. I think it's 300,000 bucks or something. they were-
Right, so it's 600 businesses at $500, whereas here, that same $500 is gonna generate 20 grand.
We heard the residents.
If we put this into place, the guy who owns Avalon Bay is a business owner.
I don't know the criteria residential is included, we'd have to look at their ordinances to see, yeah.
Yeah, you can really tailor it to your specific town or borough. I mean, what works for Pompton Lakes might not necessarily work for us.
So the tough part is, you heard the residents say, one of the number one negatives is the tax base, and we all know that, right?
Right.
So at the same time, it's always that catch-22, because the same thing you're saying to the businesses, believe me, you'll love it after it's been
Right.
in for a while, right? And that's what people don't want to, hear, especially if you're struggling storefront on Main Street that's turned over
But
3
really,
times.
the guy that's struggling is the guy who owns the business in the structure.
Yeah,
not
maybe,
really the-
right.
the,
Right, the building
landlord.
owner's not struggling, he's
They're
getting his
getting
rent.
paid.
I guess if the owner lives
More appealing.
out in southern Jersey, you don't feel as bad for him, I guess.
Right, the other program they run, guys, is a great coupon program, but it's subsidized by the bid. So they said, ironically, the Wanacue Reserve is actually one of the biggest supporters of this coupon program in Pompton Lakes. So twice a year, they have this sale, buy your bid bucks, right? So a person would buy, for, again, I could have $150 worth of bid bucks for $100, right? So they go to the stores that participate, and they use the bid bucks to buy food, merchandise, restaurant, whatever. And it's the bid that subsidized that $50 difference, right? So the business owners hold, the customers gained, and the bid is subsidizing it. It's a great program, like they said.
used it.
What's that?
I've used it.
Yeah, so, but
Like the
again, it's the
restaurants,
bid.
Mr. Sushi and all those restaurants.
Right.
I
So
think maybe it's half off,
this
but-
guy who was the original founder, retired bond, I think he was a bond salesman, right?
Right, yeah, Surety bond.
Right, seriously, bond salesman. Great guy. Him, his wife, they forged ahead and got some good people to do this. He actually goes, I think he said his wife or the treasurer goes monthly and pays, the restaurants their bid bucks, it's like, so there's a lot of work involved. And then they have people on payroll.
And then there's a $30,000 consultant on top of that.
Right.
So it's a big step they took, and so it's scary, because it would be new fees, but, you know,
Right. But look at the reward, look at their Main Street, Wanacue Ave, it's just every building is new and
there's like a
beautiful.
buzz on their street, their
They have a
downtown.
real big redevelopment
Talking
coming in.
doing sidewalks and stuff like that makes everything curb appealing, they all benefit from it. So if this all,
They've done all that.
There's a program someone was telling me about recently in Pequannock. Pequannock has some type of program.
Yeah, like, it's for property taxes.
No.
If you
no,
shop
for
so much, you
businesses.
get a percent
Yeah,
of your
small
property
percent.
tax.
Oh,
We
maybe
looked-
that
we looked
was
at it a
it.
little bit, too.
I thought you get a card, they said you get
You
a
do.
card.
You get a
and
card,
every
and
time
for
you
every
shop
shop locally, you
Yes.
get points towards your mortgage, I mean, to your property taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how it works, but at the end of the year, you can have people paying.
I think the
you know,
town and the business both fund that, so the town's, it's costing the town some money,
Right.
It does.
yeah, and the
Some-
business, I think.
In some cases, the local businesses take the impression that, you know, look, you're asking us to give more, you know, to do that. It doesn't always work as fluently, you know.
But if it ultimately increases that business owner's
Right.
business, it's a home run for everybody,
Yeah.
so. But you gotta start with having the desirable businesses that people actually wanna go to. We have some, no question about it, but I think the survey showed, you know, more would be, more is what's needed.
Even interesting ethnic restaurants people seem to like too,
Yes.
just that variety, and I don't know how you'd pick which one, but you might almost like encourage additional restaurants in town somehow. Is that something you do on the web page, on the developers page, you know, or what does that mean? And, but,
But it seems like certain towns, like you have their niche, whether it's an antique niche or whether it's the cafe niche, that's their thing, you know, and, you know, obviously, the arts are big, that we're lacking. The rail line, which is, all these towns we love to reference, Montclair, Ridgewood, Madison,
Butler has a
all
rail
have a
line.
train station. Butler doesn't have pedestrian,
Doesn't stop.
passengers.
It doesn't stop, it drives through.
To bring cargo, you know?
Dunkin' Donuts, then it's not.
But all these things are wonderful, but, you know, the town's gonna have to, you know, decide to make an investment into, everything we're talking about costs money.
Yeah, because when people drive into downtown, you want to have that cozy, that's what you think about Ridgewood, you just think about that one drag, right?
Morristown, I mean,
All right.
you know, you go over here, you wanna park somewhere,
Yeah,
you walk around.
just the square itself, right?
A few hours there just walking, you know.
Right, because, and I'm a believer of, if you have a good product, they're gonna come, you know, so, you know, I don't care where it is, if you're known for whatever you're doing, whether it be donuts or pasta, people are gonna come to it, you know?
And when you talk to those developers, and we've talked to ourselves once, if there's any way to connect buy-rate liquors all the way down to 7-Eleven in the back, you know, right at the back.
That's in this
Lean-in
vision, that's
parking
in this-
lot, all around the back.
That's the whole concept
House,
in this
couple
vision
houses
plan.
you have to buy, but to make a loop where you could park along that, and you could walk along the river, and you
Methodist
could have
Church all the way to home funding residential,
Just-
just be a courtyard back there.
something that drives around.
But you're either gonna have to win the lottery, find some revenue, or have a private investor willing to make that investment. And the river's not helping.
I guess all the town can do in that case is not be an obstacle if it comes before the appropriate boards. And
Ab-
but I know that there's a river there, which means the DEP's involved, right? There's a county involved, because there's a county road involved, so you gotta get all the
That's-
big boy agencies involved in addition
That's
to
why I think you
ourselves.
start on the other side of Main Street first, to, you know, because it would be easier. Because the riverside would be tough, unless you're just doing renovation of existing. But there, a new person just purchased behind where Leneve's is, where Tintles was, you know, that white, right, it's Leneve's now. Behind there's two multifamily homes. They were just purchased, and the owner came in, saw me near the end of last year, and has plans of development. And I floated the idea of talking to the Danny's owner and so on, because there is so much property back
A
there.
lot of real estate, yeah.
Space to open
I've also floated the idea, these are things that, you know, it's just a matter of getting done, is, you know, go to business owners with tax incentives to allow municipal parking in some of these spots, you know, like behind the area we're talking about, there's, you know, a very, very large area that could be used as municipal parking to draw people to park there and utilize Main Street. Opening Sloan Park is going to be a big asset, you know, benefit. That is, you know, sad it's been closed so long, but, you know, soon to go out to bid, and hopefully before the winter, we're working on that. So that's a bonus there too. So it's exciting. I'm not surprised by the results. I am surprised by, you know, it's funny when you read some things like, and I don't mean it in a negative way, you know, at all, like people not wanting fairs and festivals and that kind of thing, you know, surprised me, right? I'm trying to think,
Well, some of them, there were a lot of scattered answers, so there was.
Yeah.
As many that said, I don't want to do it, some said, I'd like to have, the last Friday, in the summer months, a couple Sloan Park musical festivals.
Right, which
Maybe
is
it's a
what I,
jazz thing, maybe
what I
it's
dream of doing, right.
something, and.
There was something that stood out to me that we have, and it's like someone saying, we don't have this. It's like, well, we do, if you,
Well, while you look for that, there was one other thing I thought of that we didn't put in there that came up, we don't know how to develop this, and I know we have the Highlands Act protecting most of the upper part of the town, but what if we had one restaurant, the hikers, organic, restaurant up in the woods? I know that you can only carve out in the Highlands like little tiny pieces of land,
right.
but if you could carve out one little thing right before you enter West Milford, it's still in our town, anybody, you draw hikers to the town, and everybody, that's the only place to go, because otherwise you have to drive to Danny's, or you have to go way up in West Milford to get a piece of pizza. So you have something a little more stylish, something more desirable of a restaurant, and it's right there before you cross to West Milford, and somehow it's,
Well, that's promoting ecotourism.
yeah, it's ecotourism, basically, because we have, you always hear about all the rescues that happen, so people know about it, they're out there hiking in those woods,
Oh, yeah, very active.
and that'd be a great thing, hey, there's that great restaurant in Bloomingdale, and you go hiking, and you come back and have a great glass of wine, look over the sunset, or whatever, up in the mountains. So,
Right. But it's finding that person willing to make that investment. That's the trick. You're either going to tell them, oh, we're not going to tax you for 10 years, or, I don't know.
But how much red tape, because that might be a state park or something.
Well, it's all
or-
right, there are
Can you-
some
Can you
private
carve
lots.
out, 1 acre and put a septic system up there and,
That would be an uphill battle. No, there's enough private property to do something, but it's a major investment for someone to do. I don't disagree with it, it's just finding that investor.
One of the things that I mentioned to the mayor a while ago is there was a show on TV, and they would come in and they would redo the facade of someone's house. I'm sure you're shaking your head, you probably know what I'm
There's a
talking
bunch-
about.
there's a
And
bunch
then
of
they would
shows.
go for free, and they would do like somebody else's house right down the street, and they would just do it for free. So I said to the mayor one day, I said, I wonder if we could do something like that. I wonder if we could do almost like a town cleanup, but in our downtown, where we go to people's businesses and we say, we would love to do this, and then just get volunteers. Like, our town cleanup day brings in a lot of people. Like, how great would it be that we could pick a couple businesses and do almost like a town cleanup on that business, pull out their bushes, like, do those things.
Right, called curb appeal.
It was Curb Appeal. That was the name of the show.
HGTV, Curb Appeal.
Exactly.
But it was a great show, but they would do that, and it was and they did not spend a lot of money. I mean, I don't remember, it was usually like $500 or something like that, and I thought, I wonder if we could do something like that. We're not fixing the facade, we're not doing anything, but we're making it a little prettier. You like pretty.
I do, but you have building owners who may not want you touching anything.
Which is totally fine, but we also may have some business owners that think it's the greatest thing and
Sure.
just don't have the time or energy to put into it.
well, then you can look for 10-inch weeds, it's probably a violation if you see a weed 10
Don't
inches
get me
high.
going on litter and weeds, Paul. No, but I think the next step for the Economic Development Commission is we do, and I'd be a big part of it, is we invite the building owners and the business owners to a forum, to a discussion. We did it years ago when we did Revitalize Main Street campaign, and it came out with fire, and then it just kind of fizzled. And we had a decent turnout. But you'd be surprised at the business owner. I remember we were gonna, do pavers and flowers, and, the business owner was like, I don't care about flowers, I fix transmissions, kind of thing, whatever. It's just interesting, but I think inviting them, getting them, but there's gotta be an incentive, whether it's increased customer base or tax reasons, or to your point, helping beautify. I think you have to get to know them first, have a meeting and float these ideas, like just a round table, a forum.
But Deborah Hoffman pushed that a lot, right? You
Yeah.
have donuts and coffee, and then she comes in, she might have
She'd be a
experts from the
big
county
help for us.
here, so when they come in, they can have these other resources to talk to.
Some of these businesses are in our area, how we get the community development block grants right now, Ryerson Road. It's based on income areas, so some of our downtown qualifies, and so there may be money for some of these business owners, but that's a Deborah Hoffman. But I'm just saying we should have, maybe in the spring, invite business owners, I don't know, we'll talk about what to call it and what to offer, but we should know these people other than just billing them taxes. And
Well, that's the second part of
it was a commercial survey.
of the commercial
Right.
survey that we were working on as well. So where we have actually started going out to the businesses and talking to them. We're not getting a lot,
Yeah.
we're not getting.
You noticed 10 years ago, the apathy is pretty high.
Yeah,
And you're surprised, you think, I would love to come and give opinions if I was a business owner, but they're,
Because most of them are landlord-tenant relationships, and they get their check. I don't mean to sound so rough about it. They get their rent check, and that's it.
But if their businesses
Not all of them, many though.
aren't doing well, then they're going to be failing and moving out.
Well, if there's a vacancy.
Vacant.
Right. And ironically, there's some, but there's not.
And we got the
Wow.
new kickboxing studio I
Yep.
saw, which was wonderful, so that's great. And
But we're
that-
losing the photographer,
Oh, we are, she's leaving.
going to
Okay.
Butler.
She responded to the survey, too.
So losing,
So we lost
you're
a good
also
one.
losing a cleaner,
She's really good. Who?
Angel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went down there, he's my cleaner, I went down there the other
Cleaner or
day.
the deli?
next to
cleaner
Millie.
That's next to the.
Angel, yeah.
Was he retiring?
I think so, yeah. He's,
But I mean, that'll probably become another cleaner. That's a successful business.
Bank
but-
of America building, almost a Shish Kebab place
waiting
or a
for-
diamond
he's
store?
submitted a site plan, submitted designs, but nothing in front of the planning board
Jewelry
yet.
store, was it?
No, kebab, like a
Okay.
gyro kebab,
Gyro kebab.
falafel kind of restaurant.
Helps with.
Different.
food, Different,
Yeah.
diverse food, that's great.
Yep. You know, Luke Oil's looking to do, Luke Oil has a lease with Luke Oil that is coming up, so hopefully he may do something differently there, because that would be terrible if that becomes a dead zone. Because Luke Oil, who leases it.
Struggling, I mean, in the past, I've heard him say it's hard to make a living.
Just because of the lease agreement, Luke Oil's not a very kind landlord.
And Luke Oil itself, the
They don't own the
company,
property, that's
I think they don't,
Yeah.
they don't allow them to lower the, the fuel prices have to be a certain
No,
point.
no, he's
So
in tough.
by the time he
tough-
marks it up, he's above everybody
And
else.
Quick Check didn't help him either.
No.
so,
Right.
you know. But what he has ideas is that he's under lease. So when that's done, hopefully he can work with the property owner, there's three people involved, the property owner, Luke Oil, and the owner of the rest of the gas station. And Steve, the owner, he loves Bloomingdale, and wants to make the investment, so. And we have other people like that wanting to make the investment. We have a new application coming up, like I said, past Quick Check. It's gonna be a big positive. We need a couple things like the river beers and this one that's coming that I think will be the catalyst for just more to happen. But I think, back to Dawn's idea, I think, in the spring, we do the commercial survey. In the spring, we try to get businesses engaged in discussion, maybe even on the committee. I will talk to the ordinance review about an architect review. Bill, not to put you on the spot, that's been discussed in the past. Like, was there any one reason why, the borough never really did an architect review board?
No, not really.
Yeah.
It was always a function of the planning board.
Right.
Site plan review.
Right.
And a year and a half ago, before the ECD got established again, we were talking about architectural standards.
Right.
And that's when we sent it back to you guys and said, you really need an ECD.
Right.
Take a look at a hard look at this.
Right.
And that's where we left it, really.
Right. But you,
But in my years on the planning board, going back to the 80s, there was nothing like an architectural
Right.
review board.
Right.
Nor was there anything in site plan review that really limited what folks could do or could not do.
but when you served on the planning board, 99% of the applications went to the Board of Adjustments. Because,
Even did.
right,
Well, at that
because they
time,
needed
there were
variances.
two separate boards.
That's what I mean, right.
Yeah. So the planning board really did a lot of residential and subdivision work more than anything else.
Right. Okay, well, again, I thank you. I'm going to continue to read this, continue to use this input and make a difference. And again, I
I
think.
do
that-
encourage everybody to, this, there is 10 questions, and we summarized them, but we gave a little lengthier right up below each one to kind of see,
Yeah,
drill in a little deeper to the answers.
right. And I share that the EDC meets regularly. They produce great minutes, and they're sent by Jane to everybody on our website, too. So, read that. I know they talked about things like Pompton Lakes does the Golden Broom Award, where the cleanest business, the front. You ever see that? They give like it's like a golden broom, and I guess they pass it around. You see it in the trends all the time. So maybe programs like that we could talk about, I know we talked about maybe a holiday
Right.
lighting contest or something for storefronts, so.
So we wrestled with that a little bit, because we're in economic development. Does that, would
I know. it's more of
promoting a holiday
public
light
events
program be
thing.
really part of our domain? We don't know if it would be.
But it just gets you in the door of meeting a building owner or a business owner. That would be the only reason I would
Right.
say it works well.
Okay.
I mean, I could have recreation do it, but I think there's a cross need there with you guys that it could be a benefit from. All right. Well, again, we thank you
Thank
so
you all
very much.
very much.
I will email you this vision plan tomorrow, okay? Color, photos and all, and everyone's gonna be like, wow. It's just a matter of finding the money to do it. Good. John, thank you very much. Susan, thank you.
Thanks.
And again, anyone interested in joining, please let us know, because we can use some more members. Okay, thank you. Good stuff. Moving along, need a motion for early public comment reserved for agenda items. Who makes that motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Anyone wishing to speak, please come on up. I was telling you about that?
Yeah.
That's your copy.
Linda Huntley, 86 Van Dam.
Good evening.
I'm glad to see that you're going to be using the visioning plan that was put on hold by the councils for years because they didn't want to do the rehabilitation. And I think it's a very good thing to do because that's why it was set up in the first place, to do the visioning
What
plan.
was put on hold, though?
They wouldn't, well, I guess I was the only Republican at that time, and they wouldn't declare Main Street an area needed rehabilitation.
Okay, I didn't know that part. But again, it still comes down to someone coming in with money to do it, but,
Well, that's what we needed.
right. Good. No, I'm glad to. So, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Reports. Jane, do you have anything for us?
Nothing at this time.
Fred?
No, Mayor, no report at this time.
Any council member?
I have an update on the garden. The fence is up, the water, we have the dig-in people coming next week to help us lay out the garden. And we're working on getting some more committee members. And I think that's about it. We should have our grand opening in early spring
Very exciting. Thank you for all your hard work.
as well. We have a lot of people to thank for all their hard work. The shed should be going up by the end of October on another Eagle Scout project. We should have the shed put up.
Good.
So it's moving along.
Okay. And DPW's been a big help, too.
Oh, huge.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. Anyone else have anything about this weekend?
5Ks this weekend. Car cruise night is Friday night, 5 to 10 o'clock. Anybody's welcome to bring any vehicle if they want to show it off or be on the field or just come be spectators. There'll be music, giveaways, so it should be a fun night. And then the 5K will kick off on 11 o'clock Saturday morning.
How's your enrollment on 5K? Good?
We're about, as of last night, we were 120, so we're ahead a little bit of last year.
Great.
That day, we'll probably get 50 to 75 signups that day, so we'll probably be over 200 people.
And I've been afraid, so I haven't looked at the weather. How are we looking?
Saturday's supposed to be good. Friday, I just noticed before, there's a chance of thunderstorms late in the afternoon. So hopefully they'll hold off and everything will go according to schedule. But it's supposed to be like in the 70s on Saturday, so it'll be a beautiful, cool day for people to run. That usually draws people in.
Yeah,
And
and it's a
Friday.
walk run.
It's a walk run.
Walk run.
Walk, run, push a carriage, walk a dog, whatever you like to do. But it's a fun day.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much.
I just want to mention, we had the Municipal Drug Alliance meeting last week, sort of the preliminary planning for the upcoming year, which, is basically July to June, based on where their grant is and stuff like that. Probably of interest to us is the Unity event, the volleyball game and stuff like that, is going to be in March the 9th, rather than in late February like it normally is because of how things are being scheduled. But they have a whole, that's basically because they're stock full. I mean, they work really hard, and they really need more members, I think, to help out. I wanted to point that out too, is if anybody's interested in helping out on the Drug Alliance, that would be sorely appreciated.
And Rich, could you, as a reminder, ask them to communicate with whoever will be running the basketball program this year? So that we don't have overlap with the Drug Alliance program and the basketball program.
You mean in terms of scheduling things on the same time? Okay.
Well, if they push it out to March, their basketball's usually done.
I don't know.
No, but there's other things
I don't
like the
think so,
daddy.
John.
There's the daddy-daughter dance and other things, there's always stuff
make
going on,
sure-
not just Unity, so.
Just make sure that she's in touch with Rachel on all
Yeah.
the scheduling, that's all.
And I'll mention that to her.
Good.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Pride Day Saturday, anyone wishing to be a vendor, you can still let me know. We have a full slate. Good day. kicked off by the end of the 5K. It's always very exciting, and I look forward to a fun weekend. Ryerson Road is finally, Ryerson Ave is completed, as you can see today, paved, thank goodness, and Oak Street as well. So that's very exciting. That was a big project, and now you'll see Star Lake to really get aggressive on that project as well. Continuing with flood mitigation projects from the storm. Some great improvements. Have you seen on Catherine and what we're doing there, and cleaning storm drains, and all good things to help residents who suffered from some serious flooding issues. Sloan Park, I hope to go out to bid before the end of this month, early October. And who knows, maybe we could start if the weather's kind to us before the winter, what we shall see. But we are proceeding with that project because it's been way overdue. Paving of Canfie Lake through our cooperative program is beginning tomorrow. Canfie Lake took advantage of our co-op pricing as we funded, which they will reimburse a few months back. So that's good for Canfie Lake members. And most of our paving's been done. We still have to do Matthews Ave, which is a little notch road off of Pleasant View. And I believe then I can do an analysis on our total costs and see if there's any room for any expansion or additional. But otherwise, we're in a good place with that. Generator projects moving along. The slabs will be put in the next couple days, and then hopefully in the next 2 weeks, generator project funded by FEMA will be completed as well. So that'll be nice to get that off our plate because we've been trying for funding since Sandy, and we finally were awarded 8 months ago, and we put our funding in place and close to being complete on that, which is a great project for the borough. So thank you all. Moving along, there's no consent agenda. We do have pending items. The first is second and final reading of ordinance 22, 2016, amending chapter 32 entitled Soil and Soil Removal. Public notice statement, please.
Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News, copies available to the public. Said a motion may be made that it be read by title.
And who makes that motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
That would be an ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, and State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 32 entitled Soil and Soil Removal, Subchapter 32-2.8:4, parentheses 4, application fee resubmissions.
Whatever the increase, that's the base year.
Good. Thank you, Jane. I need a motion for a public hearing. Who makes the motion open?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak to 22, 2016, please come on up. Seeing no one, motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And who moves to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Just,
Wait, I got my second. Now discussion?
yeah,
Yes.
discussion. It's got in here that it's 1666 per acre with a 2% growth per year.
Which is going to be,
Can we change the motion to make it 3% per year?
right.
Yes, you can put that in. It would be, I think the right language would be that you can increase it up to 3% each year thereafter,
Okay.
okay, instead of 2.
And the reason for it, because the average tax increase has been closer to 3%, and that will bring it closer to inflation and things of that sort.
Right.
All right, so we're going to change the 2 to 3%.
Yep.
Right, okay. And also, I just wanted to add to the discussion that at some point, you may want to consider, just for the way the ordinance works, that you would cap the total license for a particular operation.
Correct.
At a certain point.
I agree. So in other words, even though someday the acreage may be greater, it's not going to increase that fee.
Right. But it
So
would-
not to exceed 400 plus 3%.
Plus the
Yep.
3%, the 400 then would be the base year.
Right.
So if you
That's always
increase
been
it
the intention.
3%,
Right.
then 3%, so long as the base year doesn't increase over 400,000, you can continue then.
Right. That's
with
always
the
been the
addition.
intent.
That's been the intent, yeah.
Okay. All
So-
right. So the language would just read, the 3% and the maximum license fee shall not exceed the 400,000 base year
Yeah.
fee
Perfect.
plus the annual increase.
Yes,
Okay.
that works. Okay?
If that would be as amended.
Yeah, so,
But you do have it tied to the expended hours, right?
Yes, that's
Which
in
is
the,
one of the-
that's in the background. Because of the additional oversight that would be required, that's the basis for the additional licensing fee.
Can we make it somehow that if these fees are ever challenged or fought, right, that the expanded hours will
Well, I think,
automatically go away?
I think it's a good point, but
Yeah.
in the actual ordinance, and certainly part of this record, as you're saying tonight, but in the ordinance, it's referenced up above that the borough's adopted additional regulations and expanded hours of operations, which will result in additional oversight. So if you,
justification for the fee.
the justification. So
Right.
if the fee were to, let's just say it this way, if it were challenged,
Challenge, right.
and for some reason it were struck down, it was struck down by a court, then the rationale would be, this was to take care of our oversight. We're going to go back and take a look at the additional hours and the additional, we don't have the ability to monitor it. So, yes.
As long as we
it's
feel
tied-
it's strong enough for that.
It's tied at least in the record, that way, yes.
Again, the language, Ray, is the boroughs adopted additional regulations, expanded hours of operation for core activities, which will result in additional oversight. So if those additional regulations, expanded hours went away, it would affect this ordinance. To your point.
Right, I'm more
Right, we
concerned
can't
about
do it
the other one. If
automatically.
you challenge this one,
But that would be
You're
a
gonna lose
separate
your hours.
legislative action,
Correct.
which you're entitled to do at any time.
Correct. Good. Okay, so who made that motion for adoption, please? Who made that motion? Costa?
did.
Uh,
I don't second, I don't know.
Oh, sorry, then
I think I did.
So Tony, do you amend
Yes.
your motion with the language we just defined? And Dawn, do you second that?
second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Della Ripa.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Yost.
yeah.
Represents, what 400,000 represents, is it, to a readable, if that was thought?
Well, yeah, I mean, the bottom line, and Ray, my finance guy, can talk more about it, is we've always talked about, revenue is a big issue in the borough of Bloomingdale. So we have just increased the licensing fee by $385,000, which is a direct benefit to the borough's budget as a revenue. So the goal is with this new revenue is to be able to stabilize, if not keep taxes, municipally where they've been. So it's a huge gain for the borough from a revenue standpoint.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Next is second final on 24/2016, prohibit smoking inside all municipal buildings and vehicles and within a 25-foot radius of all municipal building entrances. Public notice statement, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance was posted in the municipal building, published in the Herald News, copies available to the public. So the motion may be made that it be read by title.
And who makes that motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This will be an ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale and the County of Passaic and State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 3, Police Regulations, to modify the definition of tobacco and to prohibit smoking inside all municipal buildings and vehicles and within a 25-foot radius of all municipal building entrances and exits.
Thank you, Jane. Need a motion for a public hearing. Who moves?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak to 24/2016? Forever hold your cigarette. Seeing no one, motion closed. I'm gonna,
Yeah, I was
I'm
just
sorry.
checking to make sure.
I
there
need a
wasn't
motion to
exemption
close.
For the mayor in this.
we're not, this is not about the mayor. Please, someone move it quickly so I can go have a cigarette. No, kidding.
Across the street.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who moves to adopt?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question.
Yes.
Fireman's Hall next door. Property line is probably 3 feet off the corner of the building.
It's 25 feet. 25 feet is not a lot.
telling you, our property line and property line for the building, the driveway pretty much splits the property line.
Right. So 25 feet, there's no, 25 feet from the municipal building,
From the building out, not from the,
from the entrances.
trying to find you a place to go.
I'm good, don't worry about me. Maybe I'll quit.
I just want to make sure, because, you know, there's events that ran over there, people outside. We have
Right,
smoking,
but if they're
we have
smoking at Farmers Hall, it's private property, it's nothing to do with us, you're good.
This is from the front end.
Front entrance, rear entrance of our building, so your situation,
garage doors on this side, that,
but that's not within 25 feet.
okay.
You know what 25 feet is? From our front door to the flower pot, it's not very big. So, but it keeps it away from the door. Yeah. I would walk it off, but I was out of breath. No, good. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers D'Amato. Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson. Yes. Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
This is pending business? Thank you. Okay, next pending item is now a motion to reintroduce 21-2016 M1Q Light Industrial and Quarry Zone for second and final reading on October 4th at 7 PM. Who makes that motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Just to be read by title, yep. Want me to do it?
An ordinance of the Borough of Bloomingdale, County of Passaic, and State of New Jersey to amend Section 92-58 of the Borough Code entitled M1Q Light Industrial and Quarry Zone.
Thank you. And again, second and final, October 4th, 7 PM. This will go to the planning board for a review on September 29th. So thank you. New business. Need a motion, 2016 9.5, payment of the bills. Who makes that motion? Second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Resolution 2016 9.6, Chapter 159, to amend our budget for drunk driving enforcement fund for the Bloomingdale Police Department in the amount of $4,643.70. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Councilmembers Hudson.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, I need a motion to appoint Jennifer Allfield to our Environmental Commission on expiring term 12/31/17. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Jen's here with us tonight. Jen, thank you for being willing to serve on that commission. Appreciate that. Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Thank you. I need a motion to introduce by title ordinance 25, 2016, changing the zoning map from R20 to R10 in Glenwall Lake, areas of Glenwall Lake. Just so everyone's aware, there was just some kind of inconsistencies where every lot in Glenwall Lake is an R10, and there were some lots closer on Demarest, closer to Glenwall, that were R20s. And the difference is, area coverage and setback. I don't know about setbacks, but there's differences in what's allowed on each. But to keep it consistent with all of Glenwall Lake, which is private property, and at the request of Glenwall Lake, we will be changing that. So tonight we introduced by title, second and final on October 4th, and then we'll go to the planning board for just a review, which I believe will be no issues there. So I'm sorry, we good? You had a motion? You had a second? Do we have to send it anywhere? It's just changing?
Just the administrative
It is.
adjustment, right?
Yep. Okay. So we're introducing by title. Did I give you a roll call on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, we had a motion and a second. Who was it? Who was my second, Ray?
Right.
Right, that's what.
And all in favor? We're good.
Both did. Pick him.
You can't, right, because you kind of lived there?
I need to talk to him.
I don't know if it's
For
a
introduction,
conflict.
It doesn't matter.
I don't know if it's a conflict for Rich.
I'm going to double check with Fred before I vote on the ordinance itself, but
Both times, you'd probably be all right.
It's a zoning map. So, right, so,
not one of the lots involved.
so introducing an ordinance to amend our Bloomingdale zoning map from R20 to R10 in those specific designated areas in the Private Lake Association of Glenwild. And second and final, again, October, if we have advertising. Do we have to advertise?
Yeah, we,
Okay.
as a regular ordinance. I mean, it's really administrative in nature, so.
Right. So October
County planning
4th,
board.
I'd like, if possible. Then I could, all right, no, that's fine. We don't have to do that. Do second and final October 18th. It's fine. Jane? Okay, second and final on the 18th. No, there is no rush on that. Thank you. The next item is a motion for a resolution as it pertains to our employment practices liability program through our joint insurance fund. Each year, they require various reviews of our personnel manuals and require various civil right resolutions to be done, just as a matter of protecting the borough in the area of employment practices, and also for us to receive the best possible rate and cap our deductibles and co-pays. We must comply with this program. So, who moves that resolution, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? And Fred will have you review and sign off, and then I get that to them,
Yes,
by
and
the end of the week.
You're in compliance, and you get the most favorable deductible and copay based on that compliance,
Great.
yes.
Thank you. Roll 9.7, and give me a roll call, please.
Just have a clarification.
Yeah.
There was just the one ordinance amending the policy manual, or that this is the civil rights resolution that I did?
This is the policy manual. The civil rights
We did,
resolution, I think we
We did a reorg.
do it every year.
Do
That's
that
all
every
you
year,
need to do.
reorg.
Yep.
So the motion was for amending the personnel manual based on the
Then
JIF
you're in
requirements.
compliance. All the other training.
We've
and
done.
Updating, you've taken care of all the other issues.
Yep.
okay. Councilmembers Costa.
Yes.
D'Amato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, I need Resolution 2016 9.8 and 9.9, tax office resolutions. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Two non-agenda items. I'd like a motion for Resolution 2016 9.10. This is congratulating Mr. David Nicholas Sinnell, who is the third Sinnell brother to receive Eagle Scout. I will be honored to be the moderator that day, or MC, of his Eagle Scout ceremony. And again, that's on October 1st, so I will present him a formal resolution from the governing body. Very proud of David. He's a senior at Butler High School. And pretty impressive, the third son of the Sinnell family to come through the Eagle Scout program. So who made that motion, please?
So moved.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmembers D'Amato.
Yes.
Delariva.
Yes.
Hudson.
Yes.
Yazdi.
Yes.
Costa.
Yes.
Thank you. And the second non-agenda item was I need a motion to approve Fire Department's boot drive, October 22nd, the intersection of Main Street and Union Ave, the annual tradition. Who makes that motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Late public comment. Need a motion to open?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to speak, please come on up, state your name and address for the record. Motion to close. Seeing
Second.
no one. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We do have a quick executive session. Consideration will be given public comment. There will be no action, though, from exec tonight, but the public always has the option to comment. Governing body, October 4th, 7 p.m., work session, regular meeting the 18th, Pride Day Saturday, 5K as well. Hopefully, we'll see you there. Thank you all for coming. And I need a motion to go into exec.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, D'Amato, Tony.